Making the effort to choose. Each day is a living miracle. I am everywhere. I rise up singing in the earth and in all of nature, and I expand throughout the heavens, creating warmth and light. Every moment this dawn of life is available to you, to lift you beyond the dream of humanness and into the whole of real life.
Torn from their families, taken from their homes, left with only their bodies, their minds, and the echo of what they were. Taken in chains, they were inhumanly packed into the cramped holds of slave ships bound for North America.
Deep in the festering hold thy father lies. The corpse of mercy rots with him. Rats eat love's rotten, jellied eyes. But oh, the living look at you with human eyes, whose suffering accuses you, whose hatred reaches through the thrill of dark to strike you like a leper's claw. You cannot stare that hatred down, or chain the fear that stalks the watchers and breathes on you its fetid, scorching breath. Cannot kill the deep, immortal human wish, the timeless will. Voyage through death to life on these shores.
As I look through my eyes, I see the despair, the loneliness, and the sorrow. As I look through my eyes, I see the dream. I see the hope, union, and the joy. It is I that give value to my daylight dreams, and I too easily forget that it is from my mind that they are birthed. My creations are not bound by earthly desires, for those earthly desires belong only to children. Side by side with my brothers and sisters to keep the darkness at bay, and allow my brothers and sisters to rise to their full potential as the one Creator, bathed in love and serving love. They have given me all, and I extend that all to the entire of my creations, as the dreamer of the dream. It has been written in the ethers, and so it shall be.
Bring you a section of broadcasting or podcasting. It's now called Connecting the Dots, which means we try to take what's going on presently and connect it to history so you can find out what was in the center that's missing that nobody wants to talk about. That's why they're right now saying we don't need no racial history in this country. We're for right and trying to pass laws that it's forbidden to teach history. Because what they want to do is to make sure that nobody ever finds out why blacks are in their dilemma in this country and any place on the world, including Haiti and all these Caribbean islands. It defies mathematical probability for black folk to be on the bottom all around the world and to have been there for 465 years. That's no accident. Black folk have never been permitted to be any more or any less than what white folk wanted them to be. You see, the whole point of history was that when white Europeans came to this country, they came here as freeloaders. And see, when you all don't call them that, that's exactly what they are. They knew they were coming as freeloaders, but they entered out all the prisons, all the poorhouses, all the mental institutions, and put them on boats and sent them over here to the United States. And the first thing they did was build form a new state called Georgia, and to build a filter to stop the run of slaves from running away from South Carolina into Florida. But that whole thing was built and designed to keep black folk contained. And the reason they don't try to do that because you see, because black slaves were I call native blacks, because they're not African blacks, they're natives. These blacks are born in the United States, are born on ships after they were kidnapped out of Africa. So they're not Africans. They were raised totally independently, either on those boats or and after they arrived in America for the last 400 some years.
See, what people don't understand, we are saying, and we're not asking. You see, The die is cast. As I said, we're not asking, we're saying this is the way it's going to be.
Gentleman in the back row.
My name is Russell Davis. I'm a student of political science. This afternoon, Mr. Meeks has said that he's not afraid of alienating white America. Mr. Lucas has said that the American Negro is either going to be free or he's going to be dead. That the American Negro is either going to be free or he's going to be dead.
The school's closed, the prison's open. We ain't got nothing to lose, motherfucker, we rollin'. Motherfucker, we rollin'. With some light-skinned girls and some Kelly Rollins. In this white man world, we the ones chosen. So good night, cool world, I see you in the morning. I see you in the morning. This is way too much, I need a moment.
Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. You know, Neely Fuller said it best. White supremacy believes in taking both sides of the conversation, and we're seeing this principle on grand display as it relates to Ukraine. The same Biden administration who sent white men on horseback with whips to beat the Haitians, well, they're now throwing their arms open for the Ukrainians, sight unseen. What this morning's briefing is about is how these white supremacists, who for decades have been saying that they're all against immigration at all, forget about illegal immigration, we're against immigration, period. Well, they were against it until now. See, the position of the black grassroots on immigration has been consistent across the board. That's because we speak the truth. Black media don't tell no lies. But that wrinkled-up racist in the White House, Jim Crow Joe Biden, he's announced that the U.S. is going to be accepting 100,000 Ukrainians fleeing the war over there. Because you see, there's nothing wrong with refugee caravans getting into the U.S. just so long as they're white caravans. That's what this is about. And a lot of those black immigrants who were caping for Joe Biden, who were trying to protect him and defend him, oh, they were all in their feelings when the Border Patrol was whipping their in-laws. These are the same ones who now they're feeling extra sore about this. And the white media has not been raising any sort of disparaging comments about them. They haven't been voicing any sort of concerns. No stories whatsoever about the criminal element in Ukrainian society who'll be coming in here. Nobody's saying, well, you know, there's a whole lot of men who are trying to come over here. Nobody's talking like that at all. Instead, they're throwing the doors open. And they're not asking any questions about these neo-Nazis, not asking any questions about the criminal syndicates, which Ukraine has no lack of. Wherever you can find white supremacist gangs, you also find white supremacist criminality. The two go hand in hand because they're the same thing. And this is what's coming to the United States. Forget about bring your poor, your tired, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Now it's bring your neo-Nazis, your drug dealers, and gun runners yearning to wreak havoc.
The shooter is linked to a 74-page manifesto filled with white supremacist rhetoric.
FBI agents say he expressed a desire to travel to Ukraine to fight with a far-right paramilitary group.
At least one member of an American hate group also trained in Ukraine with Azov Battalion.
According to the FBI, domestic terrorists killed 39 people in fiscal year 2019, making it the most deadly year for domestic terrorism since the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing.
The threat of white nationalism has evolved since Oklahoma City, where a domestic terrorist used a truck bomb to kill at least 168 people. Police don't tend to see such terrorists as lone wolves acting in isolation anymore. It's become clear to law enforcement that these attackers often have links to a global network, one with common goals and a shared ideology.
We are looking very hard at white supremacists or neo-Nazis here, connecting through social media online with like-minded individuals overseas, and in some cases actually traveling overseas to train.
Over the last few years, experts in violent extremism have grown especially alarmed about the Azov movement. The group emerged from the revolution that swept across Ukraine in 2014, and it has gotten a lot stronger amid the ongoing war with pro-Russian forces in eastern Ukraine. The fighting in that region has become kind of ideal breeding ground for militias like Azov. At their public events, one thing that surprised me was how many Ukrainians tend to see Azov not as militants or extremists, but as war heroes. In Kiev, the capital, I watched an Independence Day parade where veterans of the Azov Battalion marched alongside other volunteer militias, surrounded by cheering crowds.
As you heard, the whole country looks up to these white supremacists. I don't doubt that the Ukraine militia is coming to the United States, but these refugees aspire to be and are white supremacists. These are the ones who we need to look out for the most, because they will use covert tactics against black people.
Who thanked them for defending Ukraine against Russia. But even at the march, there were signs of the far-right ideology that's so common inside Azov. The symbols on their flags have been especially controversial. Azov says it combines the letters I and N for idea of nation, but extremism experts see it as an emblem of Nazism.
The official symbol of Azov, it's a version of Wolfsangel. It was one of the symbols of one of SS division during the World War II. It is one of more or less usual symbols for neo-Nazi groups all over the world.
And it's not just about their symbols. When it was founded in 2014, Azov drew many of its commanders and recruits from Ukraine's most notorious far-right groups, including outright neo-Nazis.
We basically recruited everyone who could hold weapons in their hand when Ukrainian state was paralyzed and the defense of Ukrainian state was totally in the hand of Ukrainian volunteers. So there were many war adventurers, guys who believed that they are on kind of ideological tour to save maybe the future of the West and so on and so forth.
So the future of the white race?
Or, yes, yes.
What worries officials in the West is Azov's recruitment strategy. It's tried hard to build friendships with far-right groups around the world, especially in the US and Europe.
It's a revival of the Indo-European soul, and it's all happening here in Ukraine.
Afterward, we rode back to the Azov base in northern Kyiv, where Azov commanders had allowed Robin to stay as a potential recruit.
We are Aryans, and we will rise again. That's the way of life, you know. And after the war in Germany, we went back to the benches, school benches. But now we will rise again.
Are they neo-Nazis as an organization? No. Have they had neo-Nazis in their organization? I would say look at the US Army and you would find neo-Nazis as well.
Я знаю, я вірю, я переконаний, що ми готові до боротьби, що ми готові бути сміливими і сильними, що ми готові перемагати. Бо за нами Україна, а перед нами наша остаточна велика перемога. Слава Україні! Героям слава! Слава нації! Смерть ворогам!
Now, for decades, these white supremacists, especially on the right, they have said that their objection to immigration of any sort, they try to hide behind the talking point, well, it's not just about illegal immigration, why we're opposed to immigration at all. People need to fix their problems. They said that it wasn't racial on their part. Why, if these were a whole bunch of white people from Europe coming in, why, we would object to that too. Look at that caravan of like 5,000 or 7,000 Negroes from Haiti. That's just an invasion. Okay, what about 100,000 white people from Ukraine? Well, they got a rough situation over there. That's what they were saying for the longest time. Why, if there was massive influxes of white people, they would be objecting to it. Well, here you got a massive influx of white people coming, and they ain't saying squat. A large number of commentators have been asking where these white nativists' red line is at. Is there a limit to their nativism? Well, looks like we found it. Their objections are literally skin deep. Oh, you see how quiet they're being about this now. Here's Joe Biden talking about a policy of bringing a bunch of undocumented aliens here, and you don't see the Republicans saying, well, we have to object simply because Joe Biden proposed it. Oh, they're not doing it on this one. Fox News isn't saying anything about stopping the Ukrainians. Nobody's holding up any signs or bumper stickers saying that America is full. No vacancies in the USA. Nah, they're not talking like that at all. Nothing about how all these white Eastern Europeans are going to be bringing their family members over too. Why, you're not just letting 100,000 in. Before it's all over, it'd be 500,000. No talk about how culturally these people are not in step with the United States. Why, this is a former Soviet bloc country. Nobody's talking about assimilation. How long is it going to take them to learn the English language? What kind of religious or cultural or social differences with the U.S. that they have that would make it where they simply wouldn't be compatible with U.S. Western democracy? None of that at all. None of the racial or ethnic code words being dropped because this is something they want. All the typical screaming and yelling and the usual screeching that they do, it's not happening this time. All of a sudden, the usual suspects online who shriek like a bunch of stuck pigs under a gate about anything regarding immigration, all of a sudden they're real quiet like church mice. They're not saying anything about this. No objections here. When it comes to immigration, their minds are suddenly open. And their mouths are suddenly shut. Now, according to Reuters, the talking point that's being kicked about by the Biden administration is, we recognize that some number of Ukrainians who have fled may wish to come to the United States temporarily. This from a Biden administration official who spoke on condition of anonymity. Hell, it was probably Kamala Harris. Now, why would they be speaking on condition of anonymity? Isn't this supposed to be a mission of mercy? Isn't this something that they should be beating their chest about and yelling it from the rooftops, saying, look what we're doing for these Ukrainians? Instead, they don't want to attach their name to their advocacy of this. Oh, this is so great, so moral. This is just so compassionate and kind. Please don't tell anyone that I told you this, that I said anything about it. We don't want anyone to actually attach our names to it.
But you have black women and black people in general aligning themselves with these white supremacist nations.
Now, we also know that there's not going to be anything temporary about this at all. The Reuters piece says that over 350,000 Ukrainian immigrants already live in the United States now. And this since the 2014 uprising. All of those Ukrainians who came to the United States, they didn't decide that as soon as Vladimir Putin's puppet got overthrown 8 years ago, that they were suddenly going to decide to go back home. Heck no, they were like, it is good over here. Okay, it's not so cold as in Eastern Europe. They were just fine right here. Nothing temporary about it. The people who are coming in, they're going to also request that their family members be brought over as well, and the government's going to do it, and the Republicans won't complain about it at all. As the article says, for Ukrainians who have relatives in the United States, the administration will seek to speed up processing of family-based visas for permanent residency. So in one sentence, we have an unnamed Biden administration official who says that this is only going to be a temporary arrangement. And then in almost the very next sentence, it says that there's going to be visas for permanent residency. They can't even get their lies straight. The article goes on to say the Biden administration said in a statement it would use the full range of legal pathways to bring Ukrainians to the United States, including the U.S. Refugee Resettlement Program, which provides a path to citizenship. Oh yeah, they're saying over and over again, there's going to be permanent residency visas. There's going to be a path to citizenship. Oh, but this is going to be temporary, though. We know that they may wish to come to the United States temporarily. That's why we're going to be giving them permanent residency visas and a path to citizenship. Because nothing says I'm not going to be in this country very long, quite like being sworn in as an American citizen. So that's what's going on here. They're going to be fast-tracking these guys. And in a number of big cities across the U.S., this is going to have immediate political consequences. Keep in mind, cities like New York and San Francisco already allow illegal aliens to vote in their local elections. So when all of these Ukrainians get here, they will be able to immediately begin voting and getting to work as a voting bloc meant to supplant or displace the threat of black political power. If there's anything the United States excels at, it is being able to take certain groups of immigrants and get them on the white supremacist code. Hell, they've been doing it for hundreds of years. All of those Irish emigres who were trying to escape the Irish potato famine, who were talking about how they chafed and how they were oppressed under British rule. Well, they came over here to the United States, a country founded by a bunch of Anglo-Saxons. And instead of them deciding that they would make common cause with black people against Anglo-Saxon oppression, they immediately began doing things like telling black dock workers, you can't work here because you're black. They made common cause with the Anglo-Saxons in the U.S. first chance they got. They began the draft riots where they were literally killing black people in the streets, and they have been racist towards black people ever since. And the same thing goes for the Italians and the Greeks and so on and so forth. The United States already has it down to a science getting these immigrants in here on the white supremacist code and letting them know that if you really want to prove that you want to be down with the dominant society, you make sure that you show us how much you hate black people. And it doesn't take long.
Test, test. Yes, yes. Yeah. It's It's ugly outside, it's muggy, it's money outside. 105 Fahrenheit, thunderous skies. The cloud shape a clown face above where you reside. Under his eye, a teardrop got the ugliest cry. They call my city Gotham City, opposite of pretty. Weatherman cannot predict bullets raining from out the 50. It's ugly outside, Big L would be here if it wasn't. Hella freeze over the day it doesn't get ugly out. How could we hug it out after we slugged it out? We should be buying acres, adjusting each other's crowns. That was your brother back then, how could you gun him down? That 70s Hebron pressed on. Teflon. I got so many kids in the game, it's like the gender revealing. I got that feeling like a Richie dancing on the ceiling. Hope it resemble a Van Gogh when you paint me the villain. The hate is real, but you should note that the love is way realer. Crafty with a pen, way before I could pack them in. Nasty with dreads, a slim teen, young I was passionate. A brand new book crackling sound when you open and writing gems. I make gospel in the booth, it might sound like I'm writing hymns. Put designer with the Timbs, wow. They wanna run
Now, Afro Droid, go in for the kill. Go in for the kill.
Hurricane warners, niggas had dreams of flooding the town. Weather report looking rainy, but I skate through it daily. And a new gray Mercedes, waterproof Jordan ladies. I'm sizzling, scorching, handsomely how they gotta pay me. Every recording off the head, I'm in a so lately. I don't bang, but I'm making that crip. Let my bitch run in the web, so while I blaze in the whip, take my quotes, I'm here to give hope. Start a company from one of my phrases. We in the age of letting dumb shit kill your kingdom. Body bags for no reason. Young shit, blood slit, slurring off of the Seagrams. Hell with it, creep through the shadows, eyes wide open, ties still smoking, break screeching, he's tweaking. He see himself way different than we see him. He speak as if these mean streets was only his region. Should everybody squeeze it? Niggas know what I came in this game with. I'm not an entertainer, that's just a disclaimer.
I put the code before anything in general. Individually I don't judge, but if your ideology come in direct conflict with the greater cause, then I'll have no problem making you my enemy. This is SKC, a self-proclaimed coon, so you know what it is. He is an example of many others, who associate with suspected white supremacist. When a white person, a white female at that, can give their opinion of what blackness is on your platform, that's a sign of low racial integrity and masculinity.
And there's another statement that it also encompasses men in general, where take a person like myself who is I'm a coon, right, for all intents and purposes. I know you made a post about what you asked the question, what does it mean to be black? Yeah. So I just want to know a little bit of background. What made you want to ask that question in the first place? I mean, but it's
I didn't understand why I saw a lot of what I would consider visually black people calling each other not black.
After being stripped of our identity, the only thing we had was quote black. As a direct response to white supremacy, we created a culture against it. Being black surely isn't hosting a stream with a white person criticizing black people. This is why we should be able to kick people out of blackness, the way any community does it.
Didn't make sense. And based on what I could collect from many channels that, were black, I guess, they identified as black. I would go in the chat and ask them, and none of them had a straight answer either.
It's understandable for black people to generally not know what being black means in today's time, because it's so much that happened in the last few decades.
So a lot of people would say it's a cultural thing, and then I would question, what about the culture exactly? And I didn't get it. It didn't make sense. There was like no standard to any of the answers. It seemed like a subjective definition. So based on kind of where that individual echo chamber, kind of the ideology that they followed, kind of determined what it meant.
White people have echo chambers too.
Okay. So basically, just no clear definition of what it is to be black. And I would say that it's probably. Would you say that it's probably the same on the other side? Is there some firm definition of what it is to be white?
I mean, speaking as a white person, we don't really identify with being white.
As you know, this is a lie. White children know what white and white supremacy is even in their adolescence.
Where are they gone? You don't know. So who ate them all?
Someone come round and they just ate them all.
Someone come around and ate the cakes?
Yeah. And it was a black man.
There's immensely more white families who put an inferences on race, compared to black families.
I mean, I don't personally. Now, if you're looking to defend yourself against somebody that's coming at you and throwing that identity on you, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of group identities that are based on inalienable traits, I guess. Like traits that you're born with that you have no control over. I don't see the reasoning behind identifying with that or being proud of something that you're not in control of, really.
So basically, there is no whiteness. You didn't grow up with a thing of your parents telling you about.
No.
You have to uphold the whiteness.
No. I grew up, because I'm 38, so I grew up in a time where it was. I thought it was known and agreed upon that we were to judge people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. So I never grew up under that ideology.
So. Now that's interesting because on the opposite end of the spectrum, no pun intended, there is a very real or imagined concept of blackness that is stated amongst black people. Personally, I've never understood it. Nevertheless, it is a concept that is thrown out and stated and put out in the ether as if it is something very real. Maybe it's similar to what is it called? Chupacabra. I don't know.
He laughs at black as if it isn't real, but I've seen men and women who are reminded of their blackness. It's something that you can't escape. They all figure that out sooner or later.
But it's one of those. It's one of those undescribable things that people have. If you go from one city to the next, they will tell you something different about the definition of blackness. Right. And it's nothing that I would say started as something modern. This has been stated way back in the 60s. So far, this idea of blackness. So when you are observing black people, you mentioned two things. You said, is blackness the color of your skin, or is it connected to culture?
Well, more like behavior.
Oh, behavior.
Yeah.
Okay. So behavior. So when people say in your circles, in your lifetime, what are some things that you would say behavior-wise are associated with the term black or blackness?
We don't really talk about it. Nobody I have in my life, or no conversations I ever have, like, does this even really come up? But what I would associate just based on observing all the people having the arguments, like the culture, it seems like, puts a really high value on, I don't know, like a victim mentality. I see that as being kind of a collective, like throughout the groups that identify as Black, that's something that's prevalent in each circle.
Let's get something straight. White people are the ones who exhibit victim mentality the most and have a long history of it. They used it as a tool to commit injustice globally. Don't ever let white people talk about victim mentality. With Black people, I understand that it's present, and I don't agree with that way of thinking, but truthfully we also have a culture that's the opposite of that. We even have our own sayings in Black households that pushes us past our limits. That's why the situation in the Black community is complicated to explain. It's not just black and white. It's a bunch of gray. Ask yourselves as Black men, do you really need white women to answer these questions?
As a victim mentality. Also, not taking any responsibility for one's choices in life. Like, I don't know, almost like they have to behave a certain way because of some things that are out of their control, if that makes sense.
I would like for you to expound a little bit, especially on let's break that down. You said one, victim mentality, and the other one, we could just say social expectations from Black people upon other Black people.
Yes.
So the victim mentality. Let's start with the men. We'll go with men first.
Okay.
How do you see that in Black men, the victim mentality?
I see it less in Black men, actually, than I do Black women. I feel like I see more of a reason for a victim mentality in Black men, but it's like the women take that on instead. Because and I link that back to feminism, because I mean that kind of mentality is prevalent in many, many cultures, but it's almost the same. It's the same thing as feminism. It's like blaming somebody else for the choices that you're making. But I see Black men far less identifying with being victims, like en masse. Like Black women, that's their go-to. They blame Black men for fucking everything, right? Or white men. Like,
Mad bus driver and men like him be simping for these white bitches. Simping for women in general is not the way. Leave these weird couple channels to the divestors. Us as men have our own set of standards.
Pull up acting, I got diamonds in my necklace and I got money in my pockets and I'm flexing and I took that ratchet, I'ma blast it if you acting there. Point at your head home if you're capping there. Look, I'm gone, but I got these bitches all in my home. Nigga, get no doubt. Introduce them to my chrome. Let it bust us off the flap. We gon' knock your head off. We gon' lay you in your last bed. That's your family bought. What that's about? Pull up to your house with them choppers. Let them out. I put 100 on his head to knock him out. Who won't run? Bitch, come on. I'm with youngins and they bleeding. Can't try to rolls them full of sand, so we smashing the coupe. Big chains on, beaming like they ticket, let it boom. Big wings on, fuck that flower, throw them to the groom. Pull up, acting, got diamonds in my necklace and I got money in my pockets and I'm flexing and I took that ratchet, I'ma blast it if you acting there. Point at your head home if you're capping there. I'm gone, but I got these bitches all in my home. Nigga, get no doubt. Introduce them to my chrome. Let it bust us off the block. We gon' knock your head off. We gon' lay you in your last bed. That's your family boss.
If you want out, you'll take this pill. But if you are where you belong, you can go back to this every day, over and over, forever.
However do you This reconciliation comes with one word, and that is consent. I had to give myself consent to be okay with my own desires, because it wasn't easy. When I first started thinking about the submission and the kink and the freaky sex desires I had, I felt that maybe this was irresponsible, that I was betraying being black, and then I realized that there were plenty of other black people, people of color, that were out there doing kink, and the decision to not pursue my desires because of my ethnicity, because of my racial background, because of the history of my ancestors, became less and less acceptable when I realized that consent changed the flavor of everything. Most human beings have fantasies of sexual violence, right? The rape fantasy, for example, is so common. Masters and Johnson tracked this. Something like 80 to 90% of people have these fantasies, right? That does not mean that 80 to 90% of people want to be knocked down in an alley and assaulted against their will. It means that the fantasy and the play, the psychosexual, erotic connections that your brain makes when you do this kind of stuff, is attractive to people.
What are you doing that for? It makes a man feel good. She likes it too. She likes it too. Don't you, pretty wench?
And so when you have a consensual relationship, what you have done is you've said, I am consciously engaging in this as an adult, as someone who is freely and willingly doing so. My ancestors did not have the free will to be able to choose. And so what I am doing, what myself and my husband are doing, is completely, entirely different than that. It might look the same, but consent makes these things different. If you don't believe that, I understand that that's a different opinion, but for me and for people who are practicing kink and BDSM, the fact that we, as adults, are consensually engaging in these behaviors, for us, means that it is something that we do with joy and without fear. And thank you very much for the question.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Welcome to another video by White Zaddy, or White Zaddy, yeah, White Zaddy. I'm adopting all these terms now, but excuse me if I don't pronounce them correctly. So here's another dusty black male. I'm sorry. Let me get serious here. I'm not going to call them men anymore because in my eyes they're just not men. They're males.
A white supremacist simp. This bummy crusty dude is validated by bitches. That's why I can't respect anything he's saying.
So here's a comment by a black male named Robert, and it's on my video, Cynthia G is wrong about black men. Now, this is a comment that I've had many times before, but it wasn't until I read the comment from Robert here on this specific video with this whole topic in the back of my mind about quote-unquote dusty black men,
this sassy old white supremacist flunky is speaking on us in the name of some dirty bedwenches, and he classifies himself as a man.
Actually, I mean, as we say in my country, a quarter fell, or where kind of like you realize something that you didn't before.
He started yelling at me, I started yelling back.
Wilson is an Army specialist who was on the way to drill class Friday evening when it happened, merging from 288 to 45 North.
I merged in front of him, and he got like very angry.
She says the man rolled down his window calling her names and started following her onto I-10 as she exited onto Taylor Street.
And I thought I lost him, but no, he pulled back on the side of me and got out the car.
When this all unfolded, you can see the man even pull off her wig.
So let me read the comment. Where is your black girlfriend/wife at? You have been talking like this for a very long time, and yet you're not married to the women you made a YouTube career off of. Now, apart from the fact that I don't marry women, but I would marry one single woman, let me get into this. This gentleman, on second look or read of this comment, clearly doesn't understand the concept of security. My response to him was actually this. It's just a two-sentence comment or reply. It's called privacy. Do you realize how many lunatics there are out there that want to harm public personalities like me and or their loved ones. Maybe you would put your loved ones in jeopardy like that, but that's not me. And this made me think when I thought about this more. Most of these comments that I've had in the past, which are very similar to this one, they've mostly been made by black males. I've had some from black women too, and some from white people too, but most of them have been by black males. And that made me think more. Is it that maybe this black gentleman doesn't realize that as a public personality, you have a lot of lunatics that want to hurt you, but more importantly, they want to hurt your loved ones? Maybe he doesn't realize that. Maybe he does realize it, but maybe he thought he could do a little bait and switch there, where he kind of baited me and then, goes in against me for jeopardizing my, supposed or possible. I'm not going to reveal that, so I'm not doing it here. I'm not doing it in the comments. Where I would do that, but I'm not. But this whole thing made me realize how these guys think, how these dusty black males think.
He's speaking as if crusty white males aren't irrational. I can understand that he don't want to reveal the identity of his wife or girlfriend, but I find it hard to believe that he's actually married to a black woman as well. Because bedwenches never miss a chance to post their white man on social media, even the conservative ones. There would be some kind of public evidence of a connection between him and a black woman.
Either they are oblivious to the protection, in my case, or of me, the public personality, or they think they can do a little bait and switch or use whatever games they have. Whichever is the case, they don't care about your protection. And that is exactly something that Cynthia G has said as well.
A long forehead, no edges having, baby aborting coon.
And that is exactly something that Cynthia G has said as well.
Studied your history, and you did not take over this country by singing "We Shall Overcome." You did not gain control of the world like you have it now by dealing fairly with a man and keeping your word. You're treaty breakers, you're liars, you're thieves, you rape entire continents and races of people. Then you wonder why these very people don't have any confidence or trust in you. Your religion means nothing. Your law is a farce, and we see it every day. You demonstrated it in Alabama. And I can say you because you're part of the whole system. You profit from it. In fact, you make your living from it. You couldn't walk around and talk to people, stand up in your pulpit on Sunday and preach nice little songs and say, now we're going to give thanks to the Lord for he is good and old Jesus be among us. As far as we're concerned, your Jesus is contaminated, just like everything else you tried to force upon us is contaminated.
Great things can only come out of struggle. There must be pain, there must be strife in order for something beautiful to be produced. I care about my people and our future just like you care about your people and your future. I understand where you're coming from, and you need to understand where I'm coming from. It's better to win than it is to be morally right. It is much better to have power and to pursue one's ends. That is, the beauty and flourishing of the white race is an end in itself.
People of European descent have been at war with themselves since they lived in the ice. The idea of a race war, it's here.
Non-white people say that white people are conducting a race war against them? This is absurd.
Say again.
The race war against black people has been going on ever since we've been in this country.
It's almost as if law enforcement officers killing black men, unarmed black men, non-aggressive black men who are not threats, is legal at this point.
My position is basically that there is already in place a white supremacist ruling class, that they want to have straight up and clear white supremacist domination.
I think we should have more white privilege. White privilege, no question, exists. I think we should intensify it. We should have more of it.
What we're seeing now with this current administration is just what white folks been thinking all along. They just got somebody in a place of power who will say what they think.
For those that are living that type of life, this is the only path.
The history of the world really is the history of the white race. Who's going to win this race war? We are going to win.
Tonight on the Black Channel, desperate times call for desperate measures. And when the chips are down, see if you can appeal to divide and conquer. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. So much has been happening here. So much has been happening. So much has been going on, and there's so much that we could go over and discuss here. And one thing in particular, I thought it was an April Fool's joke. You would have thought it was an April Fool's joke. You would be forgiven for thinking that it was an April Fool's joke. It was a joke, all right, but the joke's on you, Jack. The joke is on you. Lo and behold, I mean, you gotta understand, man. They put money behind the things they believe in, okay? They put money behind the things they believe in. They don't play about the things they believe in. The things they believe in get backing. The things they believe in get financing. The things they believe in get pushing. The things they believe in go up one side and down the other of the spectrum. So this article here has come out. This article here has come out, and you would be forgiven for thinking it was an April Fool's joke. It was dated April 1st. You'd be forgiven for thinking that. But no, because when you see the principles involved, you realize it is not a joke at all. The writer of the article is one Ralph Richard Banks. He's been to Stanford, professor of law. We can go down the list. But the real thing is, this dude has been beating the drum now for well over a decade to sell anybody who'll watch and anybody who'll listen on this idea that black women, he's focused all his firepower and all his efforts and attention on black women and to convince them that they need to date out. Now, he is allegedly with a black woman. I'm not so sure if we with. And I gotta tell you, in all honesty, I'm picking up serious, low-key LGBT vibes. I really am. I'm really picking up low-key, very subtle LGBT vibes, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. Now, this is what you're seeing on your screen actually is a screen capture from a video from CNN 10 years ago. 10 years ago. And I want you to listen to what they were saying during this thing, okay? This is the host talking, and I want you to listen to how they opened this thing and what they were talking about 10 years ago.
More black women, right? We have more black women, right? Graduating from college, 2 to 1 to black men. You throw in incarceration rates, you throw in the unemployment rates, and you're saying there's just not enough black men.
Well, there are not enough black men for all of the college-educated black women in particular that have the type of husbands that they want to have.
The type that they want to have. Now, I put this out, and we had this conversation yesterday, and a lot of people were chiming in, and I decided to ask for questions from viewers. And one of the questions, simply put, is, do black women deserve better than what black men have to offer? That seems like a very heavy question there, but is that essentially what it is? Do we not measure up to the quality of black women right now?
That's really a great way to put it. And I will admit that I usually think about it from the other perspective.
Well, first of all, that's really a great way to put it. Why, gee golly willikers, that's really a great way to put it. Boy, this was 10 years ago now. Who was in office in 2012? Yikes! Yeah, your black academics. Shout out Michael Eric Dyson. And all the others, Melissa Harris Perry and all the others. But yeah, if you want to know the type of black so-called academics who can get a job and be commentators and be guests on these cable networks during the Obama administration and whatnot, if you want to find out who they were, yeah, that kind of explains a lot there, doesn't it?
But is that essentially what it is? Do we not measure up to the quality of black women right now?
That's really a great way to put it. And I will admit that I usually think about it from the other perspective, which is that is it fair to ask black women to sacrifice their own happiness on the altar, as it were, of black men's struggles? And I think not.
What is that?
I think not.
Okay, what's that sacrifice necessarily when we're talking about, and I asked you this question yesterday, is it always marrying down if the person you're marrying doesn't make as much money or have the same level of education? Could be a good guy.
Yeah, he could be a good guy, and lots of relationships work across classes, that's true. But it's also the case that for everyone, not simply for the women, but for the men as well, having a spouse who is matched to you educationally in terms of your outlook, your aspirations, your experiences, that's a positive thing. So it's actually not a great thing for the wife or the husband if they're in a mismatched relationship.
All right, and we know a lot of conversations were started.
10 years ago is the point I'm trying to make to you now. 10 years ago was when that was done. So this guy has been hard body about this now for well over a decade. He's been hard in the paint about this division. And so that's what I'm saying. When I'm picking up certain vibes, I'm like, okay, I see a certain segment of the population that tends to really go hard body about that. So that's the kind of thing I take a look at. But first and foremost, just to make sure that nobody can say that there was not a fair hearing about this, why, but more black women should consider marrying white men by Ralph Richard Banks. April Fool's Day. And of course, he seizes upon Ketanji Brown Jackson. He seizes upon her as his whipping horse to sit up here and promote this and resurrect this. And of course, the media is going to make sure he has a microphone to say it with. But it doesn't go so well this time, by the way. Doesn't go this well, by the way. Two of the most powerful positions in the United States government will soon be held for the first time by black women. Kamala Harris and Ketanji Brown Jackson. Harris, as we all know, is the vice president of the United States, and Brown Jackson could soon become a Supreme Court justice. All right, let's go ahead and stop right there. Two of the most powerful positions in the United States government. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen from around the world, since when did the vice president become a powerful position? The vice presidency throughout American history has always been acknowledged as a powerless position. You're only there if something of an unfortunate nature should happen to the president, or on the very rare occasion that they need to break a tie in the Senate. So the vice presidency is a symbolic position. There have been a few times in American history it actually had to be used, but let us be very, very clear. Nobody gets voted vice president for, quote, the power. That's not what you're there for. Nobody goes to run to be vice president because they're going to be in a powerful position. So first of all, so-called law professor, and he fails basic civics. But for the purposes of writing this propagandistic article, he's going to sit up here and say something that's completely untrue, and he knows it. And he knows it. So first of all, two of the most powerful positions. Kamala Harris has been a laughingstock Nobody is afraid of her. She wields no power. And as far as being a Supreme Court justice, you're 1/9. You're 1 of 9. Never mind. Never mind. Don't let the facts get in the way of your propaganda. Don't let the facts get in the way of the fact that you're outnumbered 8-1. What power do you have? And taken by the court's ideological makeup, you're really just taking the place of one of the liberal justices who's so-called liberal justices retiring. This doesn't change the ideological makeup of the Supreme Court at all. What kind of power are you talking about? This is a law professor having to be schooled by a YouTube host, by the way. Don't let the facts get in your way. Don't let anybody sit up here and tell you that just because somebody is a professor or has a doctorate or teaches at a university or anything like that, don't let them tell you that they're brilliant by default. He goes on to say, Harris and Brown Jackson also share a personal attribute that is equally noteworthy. Each has a white husband. Now, let me stop you all again here. Would we be bragging if this were a black man married to a white woman and talking about, well, you know, I mean, there's just not enough black women. Would the media, would he be sitting up here saying the same thing? No. No, because they know how to work, divide, and conquer. They know how to work, divide, and conquer. He goes on to say, this fact is significant. The effects of racism have left well-educated black women with a paucity of black male partners. Bullcrap. According to Brookings Institute data, black men are less likely than black women to have completed high school and 50% less likely to have attained a 4-year college degree. Yet, despite the shortage of suitable black partners, black women have also been the least likely of any minority group to marry outside their race, according to data from the Pew Research Center. Now, let's be very, very clear here, okay? Yes, there are a fair number of black women who go to college. That's all great. That's all wonderful. Who's in the most debt and who's making the least amount of money. So when you leave those factors out, what you realize is going to college for black folk doesn't actually change your social or economic status. To some guy who's a law professor, in his world, it does. In the real world, it doesn't actually change anything. These are inconvenient facts. These are inconvenient facts. And they don't like that. They don't like that at all because this really actually disproves every damn thing. This disproves it. So no, they don't like that. They don't like that at all. Not cool. They're not cool on that aspect of it at all. Not at all. He goes on here to say, yet despite the shortage of suitable black partners, black women have also been least likely of any minority group to marry outside of their race, according to data from the Pew Research Center. We're going to come back to that in a few moments here. Rather than partner with men of other races, many heterosexual black women either don't marry or marry men with whom they are not especially well matched. Heterosexual black women. Let's be very, very clear here. Ketanji Brown Jackson cannot define what a woman is. When she was asked by Senator Lindsey Graham what a female is, what a woman is, Ketanji Brown Jackson didn't know. She sat there and said, I can't say, I'm not a biologist. So let's just understand something. You have to be really whacked and silly out of your mind to be supporting this. Only somebody who depends on an academic job would be defending this kind of nonsense. All right, now we get to the real issue here. Now we get to the real issue. He says, rather than partner with men of other races, many heterosexual black women either don't marry or marry black men with whom they are not especially well matched. And these mismatched relationships contribute to African Americans having the highest divorce rate of any racial group. In fact, black women are the only demographic to have a higher divorce rate than marriage rate. A bit more than a decade ago, I published a book is Marriage for White People. So he's plugging his book that examined the decline in marriage across American society, and especially among African Americans, and focused in particular on the predicament of black women. The book raises the possibility that did you hear that? The book raises the possibility that black women like Harris and Brown Jackson, first of all, Kamala Harris is not a black woman. First of all, Kamala Harris is not a black woman. First of all, no, I'm not being divisive. First of all, Kamala Harris is not a black woman. That's not just me talking. Kamala Harris is not a black woman. No, Kamala Harris is Asian. Kamala Harris is Indian. Kamala Harris was the first Asian American senator from California. So when the media wishes to attack black people, then all of a sudden you can go from being Asian to being black when attacking black people is convenient. She's going to be black when you want her to be. You see an opportunity to attack black people, so now all of a sudden she's sister girl. No, it don't work that way. And he says the book raises the possibility that black women like Harris and Brown Jackson would do well to open themselves to partnering with men who are not black. After all, black men appear to have no problem marrying out. That same Pew report revealed they are twice as likely as black women to have a non-black spouse. Let's be very, very clear. Let me explain something to y'all real quick right here, okay? Let me explain something to you here. You got to understand, when you've got little soft, effeminate, effete, moist little dudes who do not get masculine respect among the men, then they become the mouthpieces attacking other men. If you want to know who hates black men more than black feminists, it is the soft, emotionally rejected black males.
Oh, and I know some people got a problem with some of these women married to white men. Yeah, I'm gonna go there this morning. Oh my God. Well, look, I don't know their situation, but this is what I do know. Some of them, a lot of them are dark-skinned black women, and some Negroes got a problem seeing the beauty in dark-skinned black women. Don't you be mad because a white boy came along and saw what you threw away. I ain't saying that's everybody. I ain't saying that's everything. I'm not saying it's universal. But before you rag on them, understand the story. Some of these darker-skinned black women don't get no love. Could be at a place like Harvard, Princeton, and Yale, and the brothers dating all white women. Now, that's their choice if they want to do that, but look at the demonization of darkness. Look at the chocolate charm that's being overlooked. Look at it, and we got everything in the book. Vanilla vitality, caramel cuteness, chocolate charm, mocha magic. We got it all, bruh. And yet we overlook that, right? Because we think that the white man's water is wetter.
So they go into soft little places like academia. They go into soft little places like politics, places where they don't have to qualify for masculine approval. Places where they have numerical advantages among non-black people, women, other soft people. Just understand, they know what they're doing there. So they go looking for places where they're safe. See, you can take a look at this dude. He ain't got he got no leverage. He's got no pull among masculine black men. And he rejects it. He hates it. He resents it. So he makes a career out of attacking other black men because he can't hang with the brothers on the block. He can't hang with them nowhere. So he gets with another little dainty dude on CNN. I think this is the fellow who was talking about the Oscars and Will Smith and whatnot on Good Morning America 10 years later. So yeah, they get together with other little dainty paisley wearing other dudes, and this is what they come up with. So I just want you to understand, when you hear these things, just recognize what you're really hearing. You're not hearing objectivity, you're hearing politics. You're hearing politics. Just understand it. It's just politics, okay? It's just politics. Now listen to the next sentence. He says, my book generated considerable controversy and exposed fissures within Black America. Exposed? This nigga thinks a lot of himself, doesn't he? While younger people appeared more open to interracial relationships, a Black woman old enough to be my mother made a point of telling me that I was, quote, a disgrace to my race. So he's trying to sell Black women on swirling, and he had a Black woman older than him say you're a disgrace to the race. I know that broke his damn heart. I know he chipped a nail on that one. He had to go get a pedicure. He was clutching his pearls. He's trying to sell them on that, and then somebody jumped up and said, I'm a Black woman and you're a disgrace to the race. Oh, hell. Shot his whole little damn argument down. He goes on to say, but the most significant fissure was between Black men and women. While some Black women were made uncomfortable by the book and the way it put them in the spotlight, many others embraced its message of empowerment. Many is not a number, by the way. That was a message that not all Black men wanted to hear. Now, what in the hell? It went from Black women to Black men. What? At one of my book talks in Washington, D.C., I worried a fight would break out between a young Black woman who asserted her right to choose whatever type of man she wanted and an older Black man who condemned such sentiments as betraying the race. Other critics, now why was it he wasn't afraid of a Black woman? Anyway, never mind. This is supposed to be Karen talk. Now he fancies himself being a Black male Karen. If you want to know why he has no respect among the men. Other critics, including some Black women, contended that white racism precluded Black women from finding non-Black partners. Okay, well, white, what about the other races? Never mind. And this convinced many Black women that they cannot or should not partner with a non-Black man, even if the alternative was remaining unpartnered or in a bad relationship. As a result, many Black women feel that they should, quote, marry down before they marry out. What the hell is marrying down? I explain in the book why Black women should not be pressured to sacrifice their own chances for happiness out of some misplaced loyalty to Black men.
Why does it seem like so many college-educated Black women hate Black men? I'm a white male dating a Black woman. The comments I hear from her friends about Black men are disturbing. Should I stop dating her?
Is this the misplaced loyalty that they talk about? Imagine if she was dating a full-blown white supremacist. We wouldn't hear about this and he'll join in on her anti-Black agenda. We would have yet another bedwench working against the efforts of Black people for white supremacy. Loyalty is devotion and faithfulness, but bedwenches historically showed disloyalty in the moments where loyalty was needed the most. Whether it was snitching during slavery, cooperating with the government to give hundreds of Black men illnesses during the Tuskegee experiments, accepting government assistance, promoting feminism to the Black community, cooperating with white supremacist police and politicians, etc.
Let me say that sentence again. I explained in my book why Black women should not be pressured to sacrifice their own chances for happiness out of some misplaced loyalty to Black men. Now, I want to ask you all, have you ever in your lives seen an article, news story, anything, anywhere, where a Black writer was telling, or a white writer, or any writer of any race was telling white women that they should not sacrifice their chances for happiness out of, quote, misplaced loyalty to white men? Misplaced loyalty to Asian men. Misplaced loyalty to Hispanic men. Have you ever heard that phrase being put out by media outlets about anybody else? This is a decades-long warfare against Black people. Have you ever heard that phrase being used? Because marriage is at an all-time low. And yet where black people are concerned, you hear phrases like, you don't need to be loyal to black men. Okay, but they're not out here preaching to other people. You don't need to be loyal to Asian men. You don't need to be loyal to white men. You don't need to be loyal to them. It's always about, black women, you stupid for being loyal to black men. Really? But nobody else is stupid for sacrificing their happiness to be with white men. So I say this because I want to remind you of the treachery of your black academic class and why it is that they are making this absurd attempt to divide and conquer. Absolutely absurd. But they got to go for it because he's trying to eat. He's not eating very well, but he's desperate out here. He goes on to say, nor should black women feel beholden to black men under the guise of advancing the race. If the price of racial solidarity is a bad intimate relationship, then the cost is too high. Who said it? You have to be in a bad relationship. So you notice he doesn't have a good thing at all to say about black men. This is the color purple. This is what you have to do. They know who they let on CNN. They know who they let on these places. They know who they allow on these outlets. They know who they're letting in. You're not going to get on there they're only going to bring on folk who already hate black people. So understand something. They know who they're letting on. It's not accidental. They know who they're letting in, and they only let in the ones that they know are known quantities. That's all. He didn't say that out of nowhere. They know what they're going to say. They know what they're going to say. He goes on to say, black women should not be held hostage to the struggles of black men. Black women should not be held hostage to the struggles of black men.
The propaganda in this movie is strong as hell. Basically, it's a story about how a bedwench is negatively impacted when black men are shot by cops.
Cinema Latte is a women-led multimedia collective on a mission to create stories centering people of color in its films. We are fundraising for our first project titled Unspoken Vows. Inspired by summer 2020, this romance drama explores the impact of police brutality on people of color. Help us raise money for development and pre-production.
Kelly and Lorraine were intentional about subverting stereotypes and drew from their personal experiences during character development. James is an Asian American police officer from a fifth-generation law enforcement family who grew up in Compton. And Daisha is a black woman from a wealthy Los Angeles suburb, comfortable with her proximity to whiteness. I was so tired of the Asian always being a sidekick or a nerd with a weird accent. I wanted to show an Asian American as a full human being on screen, says Kelly. I wanted to show an Asian American as a full human being on screen, says Kelly. Kelly interviewed her relative who was a police officer to get his perspective on James's character. She also incorporated her own cultural and generational conflicts with her parents. As a recent immigrant transplant, she says they have been skeptical about her outspokenness on American social justice issues. Lorraine, while creating Daisha's character, recalled childhood memories of not quite fitting in with white kids during the school year. I decided to put all of my childhood experiences on Daisha, Lorraine says.
Could anything ever, tear us apart?
Like what? Officer James Lamb? You are an amazing husband, and you're going to be an amazing father to James Lamb Jr.
A 17-year-old black teen identified by local residents and his family to be Craig Mitchell was killed at his home in Crenshaw at 11 a.m. this morning, according to the Los Angeles Police Department. Police officers Dominic Estrada and James Lom were present at the scene. Both the City of Los Angeles and the Los Angeles Police Department are in
Hey, I was just about to call you.
I was listening to the news and it mentioned you.
I'm gonna explain everything when I get home, okay?
Just tell me what happened.
Can you just wait up for me, Deja? Baby. Deja. Deja!
God! I'm not leaving Crenshaw. What happened to that kid was messed up.
Calm down and think straight.
This hoe got a Black Lives Matter t-shirt on LOL.
If you're too racist, I'm not going to have sex with you at night. For this night. Now tomorrow I will, but if you're too racist, white daddy, that's not going to want to make me.
Do you really believe nothing would come between us? Do you really believe nothing would come between us?
This is your mindset.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Who Swirls, Chris Carrison from Beyond Black and White, coming at you with some serious commentary. There's been a lot of talk on the Beyond Black and White website, on our fan pages, about the recent events in Charleston, South Carolina, in which a 21-year-old complete maniac entered one of Charleston's most historic black churches and killed 9 people, 6 black women and 3 black men. And from all indicators that we see, it's really no question that this is a hate crime. And I'll get to a little bit more about how that impacts interracial relationships later on in just a second. So we're all trying to figure out why. Why did he do this? There are reports that Dylan, while shooting people, said, "You're raping our women. There's too many of you. You've got to go." Yet he killed 6 black women. And I'm scratching my head trying to figure out where the news reports of black women raping white women. I just am not seeing.
Let me pause it right here. Let me pause it right here for 1 minute. So she's scratching her head because they shot black women. Because she thought being a bedwench is going to save black women. If I be a bedwench and throw these black men under the bus, surely they'll spare us. Surely they will spare the bedwenches and the black women if we just suck enough white dick and throw these Negroes under the bus, these black men. They're going to spare us. Now that they're shooting black women, I'm scratching my head. Why? Because they put all of us in the same boat.
I'm just not seeing that. But what I saw on the fan page was a lot of emotions and a lot of people making sweeping decisions. And, I understand that all of this is based in people just really feeling pain and feeling like they're not being understood. So I want to talk with the white men who are listening to me right now, who are involved in black women, whether you're married or you're seeing someone or you've got a girlfriend. I want you to look at this video before you talk to her about what happened at Charleston today, and it just may save your relationship. Now, I don't know how much all of you know about the civil rights movement and Black American history, but this event has special significance to us in the Black community. What this man did has symbolic significance. Back during the civil rights.
Now look at what she just said. First, I don't know too much about Black history, but this situation has symbolic significance. I don't know what it is. So now now that the war is on, they're attacking Black women. Now they want to kind of jump over here on the Black side a little bit for protection. You understand now? Whenever the Negro bedwenches, whenever they get under fire, all of a sudden they want to kind of mosey on over to the Black side a little bit. Y'all remember the Negro bedwench out here in L.A.? When her white boyfriend, he's out there fingering her in a car and all this old shit, and then the cops came. Like, hey, what are you doing? Somebody called the police on you. What you doing? Oh, because I'm Black. Now she want to play the Black role. So when shit gets hot on them, now they want to ease on over to the Black side a little bit, just long enough to get protected so they can go run back to white daddy.
Movement. Hate groups like the KKK would bomb churches, kill little girls going to churches, bomb houses. Basically, it was to send a message that where you think you're safe, you're not. Where you think you can find peace, you won't. Where you think you are sheltered and protected, you are not. That is the message that white supremacists and white terrorists were trying to communicate during the civil rights era. So what we see that happened yesterday is reminiscent of what happened during those times. So what you may be sensing from many Black women who are outraged by this, rightfully, is a visceral reaction based on that historic knowledge that this is what people did to instill terror in our people. So when you come into the situation and you minimize it by saying, well, we don't have all the facts yet, or all crime is a hate crime, and this isn't about race, this is about a crazy person who did an act of terror. All of that is really assholey behavior. I'm just gonna be honest.
Did y'all hear? So basically, just really listen to what she's saying. Just listen to what she's saying. She's basically saying, okay, white supremacists that I'm sitting up here having sex with, could you be a little more sensitive about being a white racist while I'm having sex with you? Can you be a little more sensitive? Because you're laying up with a damn white supremacist, but now you want them to be a little more sensitive about their white supremacy. Now you want them to be a little more sensitive about being a white supremacist towards you. Now that some sisters then got shot, you want them to not be so assholey about their white supremacy.
That is the reaction of a total unempathetic jerk. I don't care what color you are. And this is why it's important to have some sort of cultural understanding of the people that you're dating, so that you don't walk into situations where you're saying dumb stuff, ignorant things, because you have
no, sweetie, they're not dumb and ignorant. They mean what they say. Sweetie, if you're listening, they're not dumb and ignorant. When they say all that, we need to see the facts and they deserve it. No. They're speaking from the heart. You think because they got your black coochie in their mouth that they somehow transcended race, and they did not. You're the bedwench. See, they didn't downgrade to your level. You dig? And you didn't upgrade to theirs. They still have a slave bedwench mentality with you, and they keep their white supremacist views. And y'all sit up here trying to convince your white daddies to not have a white supremacist mindset towards you, and they still have it. It ain't about you trying to teach them to not be ignorant. They're speaking from the heart. This is why I go in on these Negro bedwenches. They're embarrassing, man.
Black women should not be held hostage to the struggles of black men. So he started off by talking about racism, and then take a look at this paragraph. By the way, third to the last paragraph. I explained in my book why black women should not be pressured to sacrifice their own chances for happiness out of some misplaced loyalty to black men. Nor should black women feel beholden to black men under the guise of advancing the race. If the price of racial solidarity is a bad intimate relationship, then the cost is too high. Black women should not be held hostage to the struggles of black men. So black men are the only ones with struggles?
Wherever you move, black man, black maker, wherever you move, the high value people move away. Wherever you go, it actually depreciates in value.
One family's home appraisal experience is revealing how different it can be for people of color.
Kind of wanted to document it because it does seem like one of the few ways that we can achieve economic fairness by just having my husband be in the house by himself and taking down all evidence that he has a black family.
This situation alone shows the position they're in. Black women cannot afford to deny white supremacy.
And so I was willing to put up with that indignity to do it because I knew it was going to be effective. And so I was willing to put up with that indignity to do it because I knew it was going to be effective.
She took down all the photos of her family, replacing them only with photos of her husband and his white family. And he is the person in the home when the new appraiser comes. And when the second appraisal comes back, the value of their house has shot up more than $100,000, a 40% increase.
What? So black men are the only ones in black society with struggles? Just understand propaganda when you hear it. He goes on to say, true, race can provide a basis of compatibility, but race itself cannot solely sustain a relationship. And there are many bases of compatibility other than race. Black women's increased rate of interracial marriage from a mere 3% in 1980 to 12% in 2017, according to the Pew Research Center, also reflects their increasing autonomy to choose partners that best serve them. They should not have to apologize or feel guilty for doing so. There has been little discussion in the media or culture about the white partners of prominent black women like Harris or Brown Jackson, and I hope this reflects the increasing social acceptance of such unions. If so, then black women will be able to enjoy the relationship freedom they deserve. They hire black people who hate black people. So just understand, when you see hit pieces like this happen, when you see that occur, it's not happening out of nowhere. It's happening for a reason. It's happening for a reason. And they understand why they're doing it. They understand why they're doing it. Because they're trying to do somebody's bidding. They're trying to do somebody's bidding. And that's very, very important to them. Now, as you all know, Asians do a lot more interracial marrying out than black people. Asians, Jews, so-called American Indians, Hispanics, but yet they focus on black people. And even the Pew Research stuff that he was looking at even bears that out, by the way. Even it bears that out. And yet they're obsessed with black people. They're concerned about black people. But why now? Why now, and why Ketanji Brown Jackson? Why now? Why this and why now? And Jason, why is it desperation? Well, that's very easy for you to answer here because, oh boy, what do you know? Well, what do you damn well know? The closer we get to November, the worse it's looking for Biden and friends. They're swearing up and down that everything is great, everything is fine. Never mind your gas prices, never mind your rent, never mind home prices, never mind supply shortage, never mind car prices. Don't worry about any of that right there. Everything's great over here. Vote for four more years of Joe. 4 more years, Jomo years.
Vegetable oil, power steering.
Well, even over there at the DNC's favorite cable TV channel, MSNBC, old Chuck Todd is letting you know every week he comes on, the numbers are getting worse. It's dropping like a speedometer over there, slowing to a halt. You can see what he's showing you there. Biden's approval number is heading south quickly. The country's opinion of whether or not we're on the wrong track, 71%. And the Republicans looking like they got the edge too and rising. And you wish to change the subject so that after you lose, you can point to something else and say, it wasn't you. It wasn't your disastrous policies. It wasn't the fact you weren't doing anything for black people. Why, the problem is these black men's didn't support. If we had, the black men's was the problem here. See, they tried that in California with Proposition 8. Because black folk did not support gay marriage in California. And when they realized, okay, you can't really split the hairs on that much, then all of a sudden it became about, well, black men's. So ever since then, they've been trying this black men's thing. If we can't win the black vote, divide the black vote. If we cannot sweep and win the black vote, then divide the black vote. And if we know we're going to get our asses kicked, then what we need to do then is say, okay, we got a new mission. Let's get ready for how we're going to spin this later. Why? Because we can already see the writing on the wall. Ain't nothing nice about none of this. So if you want to know why it is that little crazy ass desperation articles like this are jumping up, is because they've already conceded 2022 is lost, and truth be told, they're already gearing up to lose for 2024. They've already conceded that 2022, they're gonna have to write that off, and now they're looking at 2024 and saying, oh hell. No wonder you're seeing all this talk about reparations now at the state level, not the national level. Now you're seeing folks talking about, well, you know, maybe we can do something about reparations now. Maybe we can do that there. I don't know. I mean, we can think it out. Now all of a sudden, they're starting to talk a little less crazy. Have you all noticed that? Now all of a sudden, they're talking tangibles a little bit. A little bit. We ain't going for talk, though. I want to read a letter. This is a letter from retired District Court Judge U.W. Clemon. It's a black man. And this is him talking about Ketanji Brown Jackson, and particularly her verdict against black class action lawsuit against Lockheed.
There's also been some pushback among the Black community, particularly related to her decision in the class action suit against Lockheed Martin. I'm pretty sure she'll be nominated, though, so
Yeah.
or she'll be appointed.
Anyone picked will be confirmed, barring some massive scandal, and then would be confirmed anyway, probably.
Right.
Just a couple of weeks ago,
he wrote this letter to the president on February 4th, 2022, regarding the first black female justice of the United States Supreme Court. Dear Mr. President, as one who has labored in the vineyards of civil rights all my life, I rejoice in your determination to appoint the first black female to the United States Supreme Court. In the tradition of Thurgood Marshall, hopefully she will stand tall for equal justice for all and equality in the workplace. As you consider the candidates for your legacy appointment to the highest court of the land, it is entirely appropriate for you to take into account not simply what each aspirant has done for her own career, but equally so what she has done for the cause of justice and equality. Based on her conduct in Ross versus Lockheed, docket number you can see on your screen, I strongly believe that Circuit Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson should not be appointed by you as the first black female justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. The Ross case was brought as a 2016 class action on behalf of 5,500 black workers of the Lockheed Martin Corporation, the nation's largest federal contractor. Before filing the lawsuit, lawyers for the black plaintiffs negotiated a settlement with Lockheed Martin, which provided for a reformed evaluation system, the cornerstone of pay and promotion decisions, and $22 million to be distributed to the black workers. When the lawyers presented the settlement to Judge Jackson, she incredibly refused to approve the settlement because, in her view, there were no common factual questions. Then, more incredibly, she denied the plaintiffs their fundamental right to take discovery of Lockheed Martin's books and records as they sought to prove class action status. Finally, by taking 54 days to issue her memorandum opinion accompanying her order denying class certification, she effectively aborted plaintiffs' rights to appeal her class certification decision under Rules 23F of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure.
They wanted the judge essentially to certify the class and the judgment. And what she chose to do, instead of accepting that the business made a business decision to settle this lawsuit, is she chose to litigate the suit on her own, which I found incredibly strange. And after consulting with several attorneys who handle class action lawsuits, they felt the same. And so there are several things she could have done as she couched this unilateral litigation in fairness. What she did is threw the baby out with the bathwater. And so people, they still back in 2019 are fighting for this to happen. And ironically, what has happened is Lockheed Martin has used the judge's arguments to say that to basically stall this case, it's a very bizarre decision, I think, on her part.
This is from a district judge who understands all of this. And what he's saying is contrary to that bullcrap ass Washington Post article. This man knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's talking about. So take a look at the details that he's giving you here, and I hope you understand them. That they had come to terms, and when they presented it to her, she refused it, saying that there were no common factual questions. The other thing that they tried to say was that, well, if she approved the class action lawsuit for these plaintiffs, then it might exclude others. That happens in every class action lawsuit. So the excuse they tried to say is, oh, well, she was excluding some black plaintiffs. Yes, she was blocking the class action lawsuit because it wouldn't include. There were other black plaintiffs that might not get included if they don't file. If they don't file, then they won't get covered by it. That happens in every class action lawsuit. What they tried to describe it as is, oh, well, she did deny it. The Washington Post, she did deny it for some black folks, but she was trying to protect other black people. So you see, she was trying to do the right thing, and y'all ain't giving her credit. She just couldn't win. No, she was protecting Lockheed Martin. Because I don't know. I'm looking here and I'm trying to see a reason why such a thing might have occurred. I'm trying to see a reason why. I don't know. I just can't quite put my finger on it. So first of all, she said there were no common factual questions. Then she denied the plaintiffs their right to take discovery of Lockheed Martin's books. So during this, when you file a lawsuit, you're supposed to have discovery, which means you investigate the other party. She refused to let Martin to hand over Lockheed Martin's books. Now understand something. As a federal contractor, Lockheed Martin would not want their books looked into because whatever comes out in court becomes public record. So she was shielding Lockheed Martin against black employees because if Lockheed Martin's books become public record, that could help a whole lot more people than just these plaintiffs. So she was sitting up here doing the dirty work and bidding of the white corporation against black people. No wonder Joe Biden chose her. He chose the right one, didn't he? Over 5,000 black people. Over 5,000. And then lastly, and this one was the most diabolical on her part. This was the most diabolical part. She waited 54 days to issue her memorandum opinion. She waited 54 days. 54. Understand that right now. 54 days. That's not a reasonable amount of time. That's 54 damn days. And she did that deliberately to run out the clock. She did that deliberately to wait and run out the clock to make sure that they wouldn't have the ability to press the matter further. And it wasn't accidental. Now, for those of you who are not aware, because I've gone to the effort of going to the Cornell Law School website, for those of you who are unaware, why is that one important? Because Rule 23F, what does it say? That Rule 23F of the civil procedure. The Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. Rule 23F applies to appeals. I'm going to read for you the wording of it. A court of appeals may permit an appeal. The Court of Appeals may permit an appeal from an order granting or denying class action certification under this rule, but not from an order under Rule 23E1. A party must file a petition for permission to appeal with the circuit clerk within 14 days after the order is entered or within 45 days after the order is entered if any party is the United States, a United States agency, or a United States officer or employee sued for an act or omission occurring in connection with duties performed in the United States on the United States' behalf. So if you want to know why that was so diabolical that she waited 54 days, that was why he said, finally, by taking 54 days to issue her memorandum opinion accompanying her order denying class certification, she effectively aborted plaintiff's right to appeal her class action certification decision. So for those of you who want to know what the numbers are, she is worse. She is worse. In many ways, she's as bad, if not worse, than Roger B. Taney. She plays from the same damn playbook. If she's not a white supremacist, she'll do till the white supremacists get here. So for those of you who are not aware, what is the case against Ketanji Brown Jackson? Ketanji Jackson Brown. Jackson Phillips, Action Jackson, Inaction Jackson. If you want to know what the case is, that is the case against her, among others. Joe Biden didn't choose her by accident. He knew what he was getting. Of all the choices, he knew what he was getting, and I submit to you that this picture right here tells you everything that she thinks about black people, and I'll stand on that. We are the black media. You have received all the necessary information and analysis required to make your decision and make your choices. And choose very carefully, because there will be a number of people attempting to deceive you. And without accurate, reliable information, nothing gets done. But now you understand why it is that they are so desperate to change the subject by any and all means possible. Don't you be deceived about why they're doing what they're doing.
Justice League, Justice League.
Certified, I'm too legit. Think about who gon' take control, I ever fall or take a seat. I know everybody gotta go, just wanna keep my calendar lit. I barely even talk to people, why would I chop it with pigs? Don't link up, so I cooperate, that's something I never did. Just take one player off the team to put us all to a quit. Now the white folk watching her, told her don't talk, he still snitch. Just one person on my hustle, my whole family could be rich. Think I'm just gon' give up 9 and put my all to this. I'ma blow before I go out, ain't no way I'ma take it rich. Don't see it till it's time to shoot, but it's a Glocky, not a SIG. I'm with certified members only, grab the ski mask or the wig. Want some back, get it in blood, ain't no faking, I can't pretend. To the industry, I'm a rookie, in the streets a veteran. And watch your back, it get real shysty when you stacking president. My truth would die, get locked or lucky, cause the color of my skin. This one for my fallen soldiers, take souls for my brother and them. But don't get chopped and have plan in between, it's either us or them. Whoever on the other side of this gun, I hate to be him. Know that I'm forever stepping.
The half-caste child, and there are ever-increasing numbers of them. Now, what is to happen to them? Are we to allow the creation of an unwanted third race? Should the coloreds be encouraged to go back to the black? Or should they be advanced to white status and be absorbed in the white population? Now, time and again, I am asked by some white man, if I marry this colored person, will our children be black? And as Chief Protector of Aborigines, it is my responsibility to accept or reject those marriages. Here is the answer. 3 generations. Half-blood grandmother, quadroon daughter, octoroon grandson. Now, as you can see in the 3rd generation, or 3rd cross, no trace of native origin is apparent. Now, as you can see in the 3rd generation, or 3rd cross, no trace of native origin is apparent.
It's a probable chance that black genes can be passed down to white people after generations, especially genotypes like, for example, ACTN3, the gene that allows physical power. Phenotypes can be passed down as well. That's why you see some non-black people, especially non-black immigrants with black features. Being under a system of white supremacy, who do you think the biracial child will identify with? That's why the media have no problem with promoting interracial marriages.
Please welcome L'Epiphany to the Maury Show. Now, take a look at L'Epiphany's beautiful twin daughters, Lauren and London. You see, L'Epiphany says she's positive her fiancé Marco is their biological father. Here's the problem, though. This is Marco.
I want y'all to notice the crowd's reactions. As you can see, they know the truth. But they will continue to support her lies and ignorance.
Now, Marco sees what a lot of you see, right? Absolutely no resemblance. And today he denies he's their father. Listen to L'Epiphany's story.
Let's get one thing straight. Marco is the father of my twin daughters, Lauren and London. We have been together for 10 years. I may have made some mistakes in the past, but I would never do Marco like that again.
This is pretty much how 2022 is going right now.
Every single day, I'm harassed by everyone about how my daughters
Whose goddamn white baby is that?
This is your baby, okay? He's just light-skinned. Mm-hmm.
That one might be mine. That one right there. I'm not totally sure. Just because you name him Darren don't mean he belonged to Darren. But I don't care what this baby's name is. This baby is rice-skinned, but not light-skinned. That is a white child. That is Caucasian from the mountains of Caucasus. That is a Slavic baby, a Viking from Iceland. That's a good... That baby got 730 as a credit rating right now as an infant.
You the only one I've been with, Darren.
That's not my baby. That's almost a grown white man you brought in here. His glasses are certainly grown. I've never seen a baby with that type of prescription. And why does that baby look like Officer Joshua? Bitch, you been fucking the guard?
Nuh-uh.
Hey, Darren, stop talking to my mom like that, man. Be respectful.
You're absolutely right. I apologize for that. It's just that this bitch...
Hey, there you go again.
Your mother was misbehaving.
Yes, they're light-skinned. Yes, they have straight hair.
In the case of 9-month-old identical twins, Lauren and London, Marco, you are not...
They already have a way of manipulating the events of the future regarding racial identity. This is a desperate attempt to wipe us out, but they wouldn't do it if they didn't believe that it could be done.
The continuing infiltration of white blood finally stamps out the black color. The Aboriginal has simply been bred out.
Why the fuck they put my business on the blog? Sister know they never gotta get a job. Brody said he rather spend shit and rob. Damn, dawg. He ain't playing, dawg. That's your plan, dawg. That's your man, dawg. Fuck both of them, I want them all gone. Shit been getting shaky, I'm staying where I'm safe at. Couple spots, I don't know where I stay at. Why was you playing? You know we don't play that. Flipping words when you know I ain't say that. I been good, so I'm guessing it's payback. Smoking woods in the back of the Maybach. I'm the hero, so they gotta face that. Hit the right, where the fuck is my K-back? I'm on the other one.